All right, authors, pull out that author brand checklist and get ready because we are about to transform your brand from just a name into a complete visual experience that your readers won't soon forget. Hey there, authors. Welcome back to Author Brand Studio. Now, last week we tackled Pillar 1, your author name presentation. That's a very important part of your author brand foundation. But this week we're diving deep into Pillar 2, your visual identity. Now, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, visual identity, I'm not prepared, I'm not ready. It's not that kind of visual. We're talking about your brand visual identity, the visual language that makes your author brand unforgettable. Think about walking into a bookstore. You stop before a display of books and your eyes scan the selection, pausing at one or two that seem to draw you in. That's visual identity at work. And today, we're going to build yours. There are core elements in every brand, and it all starts with color. When you start building your author brand kit, you're going to have a primary brand color. Now, this is your signature shade. You'll have secondary colors, and consider those your supporting cast. And then there's genre considerations, colors that speak to your readers. Now, I want to give you a tip. When you are choosing your colors, document the exact color codes. Those are the colors that you will use or your graphic designer will use when they're creating consistency across all of your sites and your platforms. Let's take a look at how a large corporation creates brand identity. Toyota has a really extensive brand manual. But what I really like is what they want their brand to represent. An emotional connection, consistent application, iconic execution. These are all things that authors should want from their brand. And that's why we're looking at how a powerhouse corporation like Toyota presents themselves. Look at the menu on the left side. It's quite extensive. We've got logos, typography, brand colors, photography. They talk about with their photography how they want those colors to be dynamic. Color profiles, iconography, layouts. This page shows the logos, typography, and this is the brand colors. Now, each of these sections goes into further detail. If we look at the colors, they have Toyota Red, they have functional colors. Look at the description of Toyota Red. It's the color of excitement, energy, confidence, making it perfect for conveying our brand spirit. Using Toyota Red as our most prominent color ensures we stand out in the marketplace. Below each color, there are 4 color codes. So I've created a very simplified explanation of what all those codes mean. We'll start with the hex code. It's written as a string of 6 characters, usually preceded by a hashtag symbol, where the first 2 digits represent the red value, the next 2 represent green, and the last 2 represent blue. This color coding is primarily used by web designers when they're writing HTML or CSS scripting languages or codes. RGB is a color model that uses 3 primary colors to create a wide spectrum of other colors. Now, this code is used with pixels. A digital screen contains a red, green, and blue light. This color code will be used with digital devices like your computers, televisions, digital cameras, smartphones. If you're building an ad to post to Instagram or Facebook, you will be using RGB colors. If you want to take that ad to a printer for a flyer at a conference, that printer will probably request that you submit your graphic design with a CMYK color code. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, in this case black, and it blends 4 pigments to create a variety of colors. Now, if you've ever been to a printer, you may have heard them refer to a 4-color process, and that's what they're talking about. Now, the last code is called a PMS color code. It refers to a color from the Pantone matching system. It can be used across different printing processes and mediums. I tried to find a well-known author that has a public brand board, and I could not. But what I did find is this. Olive and June created a spring 2024 Manny system called the Colleen Hoover Edition, and those colors are based on the colors in 4 of her book covers. This is a brilliant way to promote your visual identity. It doesn't get much bolder than this. I love those colors. They are so vibrant, and they make me think of Colleen Hoover's books. But here's a pro tip. Don't just choose colors you like for your visual identity. Choose colors that resonate with your genre and that work in both digital and print, colors that stand out among your competitors. Find a way to make your colors create the right emotional response. Toyota understands that colors can create emotional response. Red creates excitement, according to them. Now, for authors, red can also mean murder. Agatha Christie is no longer with us and writing books, but her legacy lives on, and it is managed by Agatha Christie Limited. In 2017, on the cusp of a new round of movies based on Agatha Christie's novels, Agatha Christie Limited launched a new brand identity. Last week, we talked about author name presentation and how it has to evolve, and it just needs to be more relevant. Jim Sutherland, the founder of the design agency who decided to take on this task, said, "Christie's books and characters are so intelligently crafted, and I wanted the identity to reflect this. It's a simple idea of a monogram drawn from a question mark in C to create the A. A central part of the concept were icons drawn to suggest each character was made only from question marks or exclamation marks. The question mark reflects the idea of mystery, suspense, intrigue, puzzles, suspects, secrets, and lies. The exclamation mark then reflects the idea of reveal, surprise, uncover, discover, and twist. This is a perfect example of a well thought out brand identity. Let's move on to another core element, typography hierarchy. Now, don't let that term intimidate you. It's simply about organizing your text so readers know what to read first, second, and third. Think of it as creating a roadmap for your reader's eyes. When you look at this slide, your eyes should go to principle of hierarchy first. That's your headline. And then it drops down to typography, and then to the subheading, and then to your body text. There's other things involved in hierarchy, such as the type size and the font, the weight, the color, capitalization, style. But to see how this plays out for your author brand, let's put it into levels. And we'll start with level 1, your author name. Now, we covered this in detail last week. This is your most prominent text. It sets the tone for everything else. Level 2, your titles and headlines. This is book titles, website banners, newsletter subject lines, social media headers, and these need to be eye-catching but readable, complementary to your name font. consistent across platforms. And level 3 is subheadings, chapter titles, website section headers, newsletter sections. Think of these as signposts guiding your readers. And level 4 is your body text. This is where you get chatty. This is website content, newsletter content, blog post, author bio. But remember, these need to be highly readable, so no fancy fonts here. When you're using any type of fonts, make sure that you have the proper license and permission to use those for commercial use. That also applies to design elements, music, audio effects, and images, video clips. And if you're going to a free site and they require an attribution, be sure to use the exact language that they request. If you're using a design program like Canva Pro, familiarize yourself with the license agreement so that you know for sure that you are allowed to use this for commercial use. Let's see how we can put some fonts together by genre. I just chose a couple of random genres. We'll start with contemporary fiction. For the author name, I chose Playfair Display. It's a modern serif and it goes very well with a contemporary theme. I also bolded it for extra emphasis. For the headlines, I chose Futura, which is clean and timeless. It looks really nice and blends well with the Playfair Display. They're both kind of a wider contemporary feel. And then for the body text, I chose Source Sans Pro. Now I like this one because it is a sans serif font. It doesn't have the little wings or the flare. It's easier to read in a smaller size. The next genre I chose was romance, and romance has like a gazillion subgenres. For this one, I was thinking sweet contemporary romance or even a historical romance. And for the author name, I chose Cinzel Decorative Font in a bolded style. It has some flair, it's decorative, it has that romance feel about it, and it goes well with that particular subgenre of romance. For the title, I chose Montserrat, which is contemporary, but it's also a little bit softer feel. And it goes well because it's, again, a little bit wider font. It goes well with the Cinzel Decorative. And for the body, I chose Lato, which is a little bit wider. It's got those clean lines. Letters are not compressed, and it's very readable. When you build your brand board, you're going to need at least 3 fonts, preferably 5 to 7. And speaking of brand boards, let's move on to visual elements. This is your supporting cast to visual identity. You'll need a logo, monogram, sometimes it's called a submark. When your main logo is too large, you can use an abbreviated version of it to post in smaller areas, like your favicon. And when you're building newsletter headers, your website header, your social media graphics, you'll be using certain design elements. Those should be consistent across all platforms. If you're writing cozy mysteries featuring a dog, you should have those paw prints visible on your header, on your business card, on your newsletter header, on your social media templates. And sometimes you just want verbiage like enter to win or free to illustrate an announcement. When you choose images, make sure that they are consistent with your brand. If you write mystery and you use a raven as part of your header, use the same image styles and make sure that they reflect the genre. The same holds true with patterns or textures. I look at red satin, I think hot romance. That could be the background of someone's website. The fog or smoke evokes mystery. It's always a good idea for your brand board to have some social media templates saved. You can use the same images and design elements and just change out the information. For instance, for Plot Twist Festival, you could keep the clock and the blood dripping down and just change out the information. For Assault and Gobblery, you can use the background with the turkey and the puppy dog prints and just change out the imagery, make it a book instead of a e-reader, and change out the text. So it's always good to have a couple of those templates. The key is consistency. Let's take a look at our Pillar 2 Visual Identity checklist from the Author Brand Foundation. I do want to say, if you're new to the channel and you have not downloaded this, there'll be a link below that you can click on, and it's a free PDF at my website, so make sure you go over there and have it in your hand for the next video. But moving on, let's look at the colors. We did talk about primary brand colors selected, the secondary colors chosen, 2 to 3. We discussed colors that work both in digital and print and that were appropriate for the genre. And we covered the color codes, hex, RGB, CMYK, and about typography, the different font sizes, your primary fonts and your secondary fonts. Web-safe alternatives is something you probably won't run into often, but it's a good thing to know. If you're using a less common font, some websites will not recognize those, so just have a backup font to use. If that situation occurs, it's very rare. And we did issue caution that you should make sure that your fonts, as well as any images, video clips, etc., are licensed for commercial use. When we talked about design elements, we discussed the logo or monogram, your favicon, social media templates. Your newsletter header should always match or complement your website header and your brand. Your email signature is typically just an abbreviated thumbnail size of your header. You can post images of new release titles. Just make sure that your colors and your fonts are consistent with your brand. Business card design, same thing. Website banner header, same thing. Book cover design guidelines. You're going to be using your typography hierarchy. For book cover design, you want your title, in this case, to be the larger font. There are some authors out there who have made it big, and their name sells. Their names are often in a headline font, and their book titles are in the title font. But most authors follow the typography hierarchy, rule of thumb, unless their publishing houses dictate otherwise. All right, we covered a lot of information like I told you we would. But now it's time to set up some action steps so you can practice what you learned. Your action steps for this week are to choose your color palette. Select your fonts, your typography, your supporting fonts. Make sure that they are consistent with the genre in which you write. Now, here's a little something we didn't really cover. If you write in multiple genres, as I do, then you're branding your name. So make sure that you have something that will play out well across all genres. If you're writing romance as well as romantic suspense or thrillers, I would suggest staying away from the curly decorative fonts and use something more middle of the road. Your next action step is to start collecting visual inspiration. You can research other authors in your genre or genres, but choose successful authors. There's nothing wrong with seeing what the competition is doing. There's a lot of authors out there. You need to make yourself stand out. I hope you enjoyed today's program, because next week it gets even better. We'll cover Pillar 3, your author voice. That's the personality that brings your visual brand to life. If you're new to the channel and you haven't downloaded the Author Brand Checklist, just click the link below and it'll take you right to my website, and it's a free PDF that you can download. Easy peasy. And as you build your color palette for your author brand, share your choices in the comments below. I'd love to see what you're doing. Don't forget to like, click the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you know when the next video is up. Until next time, keep working on that brand.